The first rule of living with a narcissist is to make yourself small. The second rule is to thank them for the privilege. For 26 years, I was a master of those rules. My mother, Evelyn, wasn't just a perfectionist, she was a curator. Our home was her museum, my life was her most scrutinized exhibit, and any flaw was an act of vandalism. My hair was never quite right. My friends were never quite suitable. My dreams of being a writer were a cute hobby, but not a real life Chloe. I learned to edit myself before she could. I wore the clothes she bought me. I dated the man from the good family she approved of. I worked the sensible marketing job she found for me. I was a ghost in my own life, and the only voice I had was the one in my head, scribbling stories in a secret notebook I kept hidden under a floorboard. Then, I got the email. It was from a literary agent. A short story I'd submitted under a pen name, Isabel Black, had won a prestigious contest. They wanted to represent me. They wanted a novel. The news was a bomb, detonating in the silent, controlled space of my existence. I couldn't tell my mother. She would find a way to take credit, to control it, to twist it into something that proved her superior taste. Or, worse, she would dismiss it, and the fragile, newfound hope inside me would shatter. So I didn't tell her. I wrote. For a year, every night after my soulless job, I wrote. The novel poured out of me, a dark, Gothic fantasy about a girl trapped in a beautiful, silent castle by a sorceress who fed on her creativity. It was my story, disguised in magic and metaphor. My protagonist's quiet rebellion was my own. The day the book, The Whispering Citadel, was published under my pen name, I felt a terror and a thrill I had never known. I didn't tell a soul. I watched from the shadows as it started to sell. Then it started to climb the charts. A book blogger called it a stunning debut. Then a major book club picked it. It became a quiet, underground sensation. And then, the invitation came. The agent, still unaware of my real identity, forwarded an invitation for Isabel Black to be the surprise guest of honor at the city's annual literary gala. It was the same gala my mother chaired every year, her crowning social event. A plan, cold and perfect, began to form in my mind. It wasn't enough to have a secret success. I needed her to see it. I needed her to admire the very thing she would have crushed. And I needed her to not know it was mine until the moment it would devastate her the most. I wrote back to the agent. I would be delighted to attend. I must insist on complete anonymity until my speech. It's essential to the mystery of the book. The night of the gala, I told my mother I had a work event. I wore the elegant black gown she had picked out for me months ago, the one she said made me look presentable. She barely looked at me as she left, fussing with the diamond necklace that was the centerpiece of her own outfit. She was the queen, preparing to hold court. I arrived at the hotel separately, slipping in through a service entrance as instructed. I was ushered to a private green room. My heart was a wild bird, beating against my ribs. On a monitor, I watched the gala unfold. I saw my mother at the head table, glowing, holding a glass of champagne, holding everyone's attention. She was giving a speech now, about the importance of supporting the arts, about her discerning eye for true talent. It was nauseating. Then, the master of ceremonies took the stage. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. We have a very special guest tonight. The reclusive, brilliant author of the novel everyone is talking about, The Whispering Citadel. Please give a warm welcome to Isabel Black. The crowd erupted in applause. I took a deep breath, pulled the hood of my dark cloak, a theatrical touch my publisher loved, over my head, and walked onto the stage. The lights were blinding. I could just make out the sea of tables. I could see my mother, her face a mask of polite, curious interest. She was clapping, her eyes scanning the mysterious figure on stage. I stepped up to the microphone, my head still bowed. The crowd quieted. "Thank you," I said, my voice amplified through the speakers. I kept it low, a little husky, different from my own. The Whispering Citadel is a story about silence, about the violence of being told, over and over, that your voice doesn't matter, that your dreams are too loud, that you must be smaller, quieter, less you. I could see my mother lean forward slightly. A flicker of something. Recognition crossed her face. It's about a girl who is told her imagination is a weakness, I continued, my voice growing stronger. That her stories are frivolous. That her only value is in how well she reflects the light of someone else. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. The room was utterly silent. I wrote this book for every person who has ever been told to be less than they are. For every person who has had to hide their true self to survive. I lifted my head slowly, letting the stage lights hit my face. I looked directly at my mother. I wrote it for me, Mom. For a second, nothing happened. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then, I saw it. The slow-motion collapse of her world. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then horror, then a dawning, furious understanding. The polite smile melted off her face, leaving behind a rigid, pale mask. Her hand, holding the champagne flute, trembled violently. She looked from me, to the people around her who were now staring at her, back to me. The silence was broken by a single, sharp gasp from someone at her table. I didn't break eye contact. I reached up and pushed the hood all the way back. "My name is not Isabel Black," I said, my real voice clear and steady now, ringing through the hall. "My name is Chloe Evans, and this is my voice." I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for her reaction. I simply turned and walked off the stage, leaving 1,000 whispered questions and one utterly shattered woman in my wake. I walked out of the hotel, the cool night air hitting my face. I didn't go home. I went to a quiet bar and ordered a whiskey. My hands finally still. My phone began to buzz. First, it was my father. Then, my boyfriend. Then, a torrent of messages from numbers I didn't know. I ignored them all. An hour later, my mother found me. She stood at the entrance of the bar, her evening gown looking absurdly out of place. Her makeup was smudged, her regal composure completely gone. "How could you?" she hissed, sliding into the booth opposite me. Her voice was raw. "You humiliated me, in front of everyone." I took a slow sip of my drink. "I didn't humiliate you, Mother. You did that to yourself." I just held up a mirror. "All those lies, the pen name, you made a fool of me." "No," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "For 26 years, you tried to make me into a version of yourself. That was the lie. Tonight, I just told the truth." She stared at me, and for the first time I saw not a curator or a critic, but a frightened small woman. She had lost her power over me. The exhibit had walked out of the museum. "Everyone is talking about you," she whispered, a strange, bewildered look on her face. "They're saying you're a genius." I said nothing. "My friends, they're asking for your autograph." The statement was so ludicrous, so perfectly her, that I almost laughed. I finished my whiskey and stood up, placing some cash on the table. "Good night, Mother." I moved out the next week. I quit my marketing job. The novel hit the bestseller list. She calls me sometimes now. Her voice is different. Hesitant. She doesn't give advice anymore. She asks questions. "How is the writing going?" she'll say, the words unfamiliar and clumsy in her mouth. I answer politely. I keep my distance. The quiet, obedient daughter is gone. In her place is a woman with a voice, a woman who knows her own name. And the silence in my new apartment isn't oppressive anymore. It's peaceful. It's mine.